Okay, thanks a lot. And thanks for the invitation first. Again, to be able to speak here, it's an honor. I also see some interesting people I've been in contact with, and I would like to contact again very soon. Today, we would like to have a slightly different session than what I am at least used to. We will not have a webinar where we just tell you for about 30 to 60 minutes what we're doing or what we see, but we will try to do it in a way that we'll all have a give a short pitch and then discuss about the topic of the future of biochar with regards to markets as well as industry setups and their scaling. So today I will be giving a introduction to the European biochar market. As most of you or some of you might know, we have created a market report on the European biochar market. So that will be the introduction. Then we have Ueli Steiner, the CEO of Carbon Standards International and the owner of the EBC and the EBC Sync, of course, which is linked to that. Then we'll have Berta Moya from Carbonfuture, who will be giving us a the trader's view on the carbon markets based on biochar. And then Marcel Huber, CEO of Syncraft, who will be talking about the options and challenges in scaling so rapidly as the industry is right now from a systems provider's perspective. So to my presentation, I will start not talking about biochar because this is something you all know, but about the pyrogenic carbon capture and storage. As you know, if we do pyrolysis, we have different revenue streams and products. So one main product is the biochar, the physical carbon, and the other is the climate service that we're providing if we are using the product biochar in a carbon conserving way. So we're now using the term pyrogenic carbon capture and storage for this climate service, for the storage of carbon, because it seems to make sense. People seem to put it into the right box, if you want so. And this is the process is that plants capture CO2, they transform it into their biomass, and we transform it into stable carbon through the process of pyrolysis. And then by the use, if you have a carbon conserving use, it is stored. So that's the S in PICS. Of course, you need carbon conserving uses. The most common one is agriculture. A very interesting one emerging now globally or scaling globally are urban applications. Quite well known how to do it. I think you've shown that in webinars before. And in construction. Of course, there are also different types of uses, but those are the three main pillars we see for rapid scaling in the near future. That's our members who are actually developing those the systems and also the use cases and the different products or pre-products. We're happy because that's basically the industry. But we start with manufacturing equipment. Of course, you need biomass. That's the first thing. The second step would be manufacturing equipment. And that by now is at a technology readiness level where we can just buy a system and install it and produce biochar and further products. So here are a couple of examples for system providers who have really installed a large amount of systems. Some larger systems, we have different sizes, we have different use cases, different input materials that can go into those systems, and different types of pyrolytic processes they are using. So there's something that fits basically all needs, also for specialized treatment of certain types of residue fractions, for example, sewage sludge in this case. So now to the market, we still have the biomass that can be provided. We have the production equipment, and we have the sinks also. We were talking about that, but I have two people who are more competent in this regard, so I will let them do the talking. Now to the biochar market. We have presented a market analysis last year, and this year we have a new one. So last year we had 25 production facilities installed. Therewith we are over 100 installations in Europe, and the tendency is that they are getting bigger. So most of them were producing over 200 tons, but some of them considerably more. Now this year what we're expecting is 44 facilities that will be installed this year. In the next year, of course, this trend will continue, and so I seem to be clicking the wrong buttons all the time. And therewith, we are at growth rates of last year 71%. So we reached over 70%, which how we expected it to be, and this year will be most likely 85 or over 85% of CAGR. So we want to be looking at actual numbers and not only at production potential. And with regards to that, we have an actual production in 22 of almost 40,000 tons of carbon of biochar, which is equivalent to about 100,000 tons of CO2 equivalent, which makes biochar the most important negative emissions technology, industrial one, in Europe at the moment. And this is how we go and advocate for biochar on the European level. So if we're talking about biochar, it is EBC grade biochar. And how you can see here, it is the darker brown fraction of the total production is EBC certified. It was 50%, about half of the production in 2018. And this year it will be about 70%. So EBC is gaining importance, not only because people want certified material and products, but also because EBC is linked to EBC Sync, and the Sync certification is becoming more and more important. So how will we be scaling to climate relevance? This is an important issue for all of us. If we look at the growth we have at the moment, it's 85%. And if we continue that growth a bit more conservatively, estimating 80%, we will be at a megaton of production in Europe in 2026. So in 4 more years only. By 2030, we can reach 10 megatons of carbon removal or CO2 equivalents. And by 2034, we could reach 100 megatons. So I wouldn't say the gigaton is within reach, but globally, certainly it is if other regions would continue in the same way. So that would mean a steady growth of 80%, a little less than we're having this year for until 2034. So that is our aim, and this is how we'll close for now and hand over to the next presenters. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Harald. So, Ueli Steiner from Carbon Standards International is the next presentation.
Okay, thanks, Christian. Thanks for the invitation today. It's a big honor for me to be here and to give you some additional information about the trends in the market and how we see the biochar market at the moment as Carbon Standards International, and also from the point of view of the EBC standard. I decided to present you today 3 main learnings or 3 trends that we see at the moment in the market, and we can discuss it afterwards in the panel discussion. I would like to start with the first trend that we see. It's the trend for the production of high quality biochar. That's what we see, because more and more the application of the biochar gets more important also for the producers, for farmers, and for construction companies. I would like to come back in the point 3 then to this trend that we see. And for that, I think the EBC standard version 10.1 that we have at the moment in the portfolio is a good method. It's a good instrument for producing really high quality biochar, and this product can be used then in different industries or on the farm level, wherever the biochar is used. The second trend that we see, and it's really positive in my point of view, is that we have more and more scientific papers now that we have from the research side, who shows that, as example, the application of biochar on the farm level, it don't depends if it's applied, as example, in compost, or it's applied on the level of animals as feed, is really positive, has a positive impact on the farm, on the economic efficiency at the end of the, also has a positive impact on the humus content of the soil and organic carbon stored in the soil. And with the development that we have at the moment, the weather, the climate is warmer more and more. We have less rain, and that's a big advantage for different farmers. And we have more and more now these scientific results, and it's really positive. Also on the level of industry, as example, an application of EBC basic materials in the business field of concrete production. We have really an innovative company in Switzerland. They have the first fully climate neutral or positive concrete production. We also in this product we have positive impacts of the application of biochar, and it's really positive in the second trend that we see. Then I go to the third point, as a really positive learning that we have also is that the companies who buy biochar, you know, it's really various companies who buy biochar, who works with, they are more and more interested also in having, as Harald told us before, this second part of the value, the C-Sync value as part of the product when they buy this biochar. As example, the concrete producer, he's really interested in having also the C-Sync potential, and he realized then this C-Sync directly in his product. The same we see more and more on the farm level, that farmers are interested in having good or positive carbon footprints, and that's why also they are interested in buying biochar together with the C-Sync potential. And yeah, some of them, they are open to pay a little bit more for the product, but having then everything in one package. That means in the summary, if I can maybe make a short summary, we see that the quality of the biochar gets more and more important. We have all the instruments. We will hear then this from Marcel. We have the technology to produce high quality biochar. We have the positive effects more and more during application. And at the end, the companies are also interested in having C-Sync, some of them, and all the rest we will hear from Berta then. Yeah, this is my short introduction, short presentation, and then I would like to hand over to Berta. Thanks.
Our next presentation, Berta Moya from Carbonfuture.
Yeah, I can't seem to start my video. It says the host stopped my video.
Oh, maybe you try now. Maybe Ueli has still shared.
Okay.
Not sure. Okay.
Okay, great. Thanks. Good afternoon, everyone. Let me find my presentation. Great. Can you see that?
Yep.
Yes.
Perfect. Yeah. So, hi everyone. Great to be here. So I'm Berta. I'm part of the Carbonfuture. The Carbonfuture team. Yeah, I'm going to briefly give a brief overview of Carbonfuture and our platform in case you're not familiar with it. And then I will talk about the main challenges and opportunities that we see in the carbon removal sector. So at Carbonfuture, we're a young company. We've been active in the carbon removal sector for about 2 years as a marketplace and a fully digital platform for carbon removal credits specifically. So we actually serve the whole carbon removal value chain. So from the production of the carbon sink up until the sale of the final sale of the credit. So for this, we've created the Carbonfuture platform, so providing both the registry and the tracking system, and also a trading platform. Why the tracking? Because, you know, especially with biochar, it's essential to track the production of the biochar up until its end use to ensure that the carbon sink is actually created and the biochar is not actually being burned, for instance, right? So yeah, this is why we created a fully tracking system. We issue the credits and also have the registry. We believe that, you know, carbon removal should be fully transparent and trustworthy. And that's why our carbon sinks are based only on science-based and measurable and persistent carbon removal methods. And that's why, for now at least, we're mainly focusing on biochar applications, since it's at the moment the only negative emissions technology that can accurately be quantified, certified, and tracked. We also only work with independent verification, so we don't develop our own methodologies. We leave that to the experts, and then also the verification and registry is done through third parties. So our registry is actually hosted by Carbon Standards International. We also ensure that there's no double counting of the credits, which is another risk for carbon removals, and sometimes happens. And so we have based our system on the blockchain to prevent any data being changed. And then also we try to be as transparent as possible by being fully digital and provide like seamless tracking from the climate credit up until the physical sink. So that's us quickly in a brief overview. And now I'd like to focus more on the development and the challenges that we see in the carbon removal markets. It's definitely a very exciting time to be in the carbon removal ecosystem because it's really a booming sector. There's been a lot of new players popping up, which actually has allowed like significant investment opportunities for a range of carbon removal projects, which is obviously greatly welcome. It's definitely a very dynamic, and with that comes the fact that there's many things happening at the same time, different approaches, different pricing strategies, which actually sometimes, unfortunately, can create a bit of a blurry image of the industry and creates a bit of confusion or even mistrust in some cases. So that's something that we believe we need to be very careful about as an industry. The fast growth of the market has also led to a bit of like price volatility, which sometimes prices have rise to unsustainable levels in the long term, and can give signals to the market that are not necessarily realistic. I mean, at the moment, the prices of carbon removal credits are not predictable. And so we need to have more like long-term offtake agreements and also long-term pricing to avoid this kind of gold rush approach, so to say, or like a bubble being created in the market, which obviously would be detrimental for the whole industry. And again, along with this fast growth and many different players coming up in the market, because it's not a regulated market, this means that there's also an increasing number of approaches, methodologies, verification strategies, credit tracking or no tracking, which again creates confusion and doesn't give a great image overall for the industry. So we believe that we need to have like some harmonization to, really establish common principles and verification methods to ensure that we're a trustworthy industry, that we're built on the basis of integrity and transparency. And then finally, what we see is like we need actually an increase in supply of carbon removals because the demand for the credits is definitely there, but the supply seems to be a bit more the bottleneck. And again, to be able to significantly scale up projects, we need to have proper standards. So relating to my previous point. But we also need to have like proper financing in place, because that's something that we often or always see with our suppliers, our biochar producers who maybe have a pilot scale project and they want to scale up, and the financing is always the bottleneck. So I mean, we're trying to address this by providing different financing options, either through purchase agreements or different debt financing options to help boost the industry and achieve the growth that we all want to see. So thank you. I will pass on to Marcel.
Yeah, thanks, Berta. This last point, increasing supply, is, I think, a perfect link to Marcel, because therefore you need equipment. So Marcel, tell us how we can increase the supply as we are looking forward to increasing the market exponentially.
Yeah, thanks, Berta, Ueli, and Harald for doing this introduction and to revealing that we as manufacturers are the bottleneck. It's always good to hear to be the bottleneck. But honestly, I think this is a very important thing, and I want to share today some of our experiences gained through the last years. I mean, for those who do not know Syncraft, we are an Austrian-based manufacturer of climate positive energy systems. So biochar, and I regret that, but it's inevitable. Biochar is only our third product. So power and heat, our primary products. But since 13 years, we are building these power plants now, these reverse power plants, how we call them. And so we get from a first single plant built in southern Tyrol or in Italy with a 200 kilowatt up to now to a plant having 4 megawatts on one site, which is an industrial production site, and it's already in commissioning. So half of the plant is already running. So it's in its live commissioning phase in Switzerland. So we have one of the smallest plants and the biggest plant in Switzerland. And it has been a long road, and scaling up physical things is not that easy, and it's not doing copy paste, especially when you're talking about a new field of technology. And if you compare it to developing a car, it always takes 5 years. So Tesla has not been born by a year or two. So it's some growing adult. And now after 13 years, we call us almost adult or mature. It has been a constant developing, learning phase to get a system up and run that can operate on a 90% availability a year, which is around 8,000 hours, which has economic advantages. And I think these are the biggest thing when it comes to we've heard from Berta and Carbonfuture. When the carbon credit market is sold out, you should build more. It's always a big danger that you build things that are not even in the early stage of being mature. And this is something I can share on our own. To build such a big plant that produces 4,000 tons of biochar at a single site, it's not developed overnight. Even if you have unlimited funds, you gain experience. And if you imagine, we are in our 13th year now of company existence, and the oldest plant, commercial plant, has only 60,000 hours. That means it's half of its lifetime. So nevertheless, it takes time to develop such things. And I think we have to develop them all together and learn from all together, because the market is far too big. But we want to share some big sorrow about overheating, over expectations of growth. We have now the 4th year of a 50% turnover growth, which is quite challenging, and we are not yet at the 70s, or 80s, which has been the target values to reach the goals by the EBI. But we doubt that we can continue. And I want to share you some ideas from our side. From our side is if we continue the growth at the 50% at the moment, we are building 13 plants at the moment a year, and a single plant produces stores about 1,500 tons of CO2 a year. We will build in 2025, which is not that far away, 666 plants. So we have accumulated on the market. It's not a small number, but it's already challenging enough. And if you continue that, sorry, not 2025, it's 2030. We have the 666 units in the field, which is roughly 1 megaton of stored CO2. And to do the gigaton level, which some are hoping to be reached soon, it would be 660,000 units of our premium installation. And just to give you an idea, what does that mean in size, I want to share you with our homepage, just to give you an idea. I hope you can see it. I'm not sure.
Yes.
We have to maybe have a look in these different plants, which is the plant in Japan we recently commissioned end 2021. It's a 1.6 megawatt plant. But to jump to the right size, when we talk about these 660,000 plants, we're talking about this unit size. So it's something not too big, but just to think about the right dimension. And Harald already showed it. Our biggest installation now is the bioenergy plant in Frauenfeld, Switzerland. And just to give you an idea of the dimension, what we have here is at least the storing of the fuel. Can't make it bigger now. I don't know why. but you see there are two portable cranes that only manage the fuel. So the majority of these plants is covered for fuel logistics, and this is always underestimated if you think about copy pasting such systems. That the majority you have to deal with is the biochar logistics and the fuel logistics. The rest is more or less the minor part to be dealt with in such installations. So I do not want to make it too complex and not achievable, but we should keep an eye on physics, and we should also keep an eye on the systems that are able. Ueli also said it. That are able to produce valuable biochar, because not everything that is black is a product. So if you, at least in Europe, if you put in a waste, by law you get a biochar that is a waste. You can do something against it, and you can do a permitting system that you get granted not being a waste. But this is an additional effort you have to do. So you can't expect putting in waste and getting out a product. So this is something that should be considered as it is, and is very important. And I hope that especially the EBC and CSI will soon, and others will soon deploy some system certifications that ensure all those booming investments a fair ground, to have the possibility also to end up with a biochar that is able to be granted an EBC certificate. And it's great achievement by the European Biochar Industry Consortium and the CSI that they have evolved the EBC 10 to the actual version of number 10, which is now making clear that biochar is much more than only for soil. And this is something for the biochar business to get in mature as well, because I think the pure soil application is not the first choice when it comes to economics, and not the first choice when it comes to additional effects, because we in Europe, we are blessed with not that bad soils, and the effects of the biochar it is good, and it's making more resilient, but you're not getting the big yield growth, additional yield growth against very harsh soils in Africa normally. So that's my contribution to the discussion, and I hope we'll go into details and also into controversial discussion, because I think that will bring things further. Thanks.
Thanks, Marcel, and re-welcome everybody. So if you want, everybody, you can turn on your camera again so we see you for the discussion. Thanks, everybody. I think we have touched some very interesting points, and just Marcel now, EBC system, end of waste. I think those are issues we might not even be able to discuss. But we've heard that we have Marcel would need very soon 600,000 plants installed to be able to, hold up with our growth we're aiming at. That means that we're not really looking at a competition, but rather at complementaries. And I've seen, for example, Gerald Dunst is or was here, and I know that. Hi. That he is also planning to bring a new technology on the market. And there are several companies that are developing something, and of some of them we don't even know yet. They might be coming up, and I'm really looking forward to it. And I hope this is a global development. So we really need you as producers and further future producers to come and join us in this effort. I don't know where to start. Maybe a very important point, and to go back to the first presentations, is the carbon markets and this risking of a bubble, because it really is a hype at the moment. I don't know, like a couple of months ago, I was myself saying that biochar now, or like a bit more than a year ago, is really taking on speed because of the carbon market. So this is an important issue to accelerate the whole process because it gives some extra revenue. But now I was surprised just recently of hearing that the companies that are actually interested or should be interested in gaining lots of revenues through carbon prices, through rising carbon prices, are the ones that are telling me we don't want them to rise too drastically because we don't want to create this volatile market. We want some steady prices, and we want to have something we can calculate with. And I think this is a very interesting perspective. So from Berta, the risking of a bubble, to the presentation of Ueli, I would like to ask you what implications does this trend, the bubble, and also companies wanting to buy biochar-based carbon credits have on the industry. So from Ueli's last trend he was presenting, that companies are buying credits, but at the same time we have the zinc creators, the farmers and the construction companies that are actually making those zincs that would want to use them themselves. And at the same price, there's a market where the prices might be rising. Will they even be able to use their own carbon certificates or negative emissions? So that would be a question that I would like to have clarified. What's your view on that? And how can we get to a point where it is just? So where the zinc producers have the option to use the zincs they have created for their own balance, for their own compensating their emissions or their own carbon footprint. And at the same time, companies and even individuals that want to improve their climate footprint and do something for the climate in buying those credits, they also have an option. So I would like Berta or Ueli. Ueli, we don't see you yet, so I would ask maybe Berta to be ready.
Maybe I'll go. I think it's very interesting, and it's very important to be very clear on like who claims the climate benefit in the case of biochar. Who has who can claim the zinc value of the biochar, and I think that just goes down to the tracking and making clear who is claiming what, to again avoid any double claims or double counting. But I think it's so long as it's clear on both ends, it's something that can be done for sure.
Good. Then thanks for the question, Harald. On my side, I am clearly on the position that I don't see the risk of a bubble at the moment, because I believe in the self-organization also in the market. Personally, I started in 1991 as organic farmer. The situation then maybe can be a little bit compared with biochar at the moment. Everything was new. The prices were really high of these products. And in the meantime, we learned that the self-regulation of the prices and the production and the consumers, this could be handled very well. And for me, I think the only point that we have to look on it is that the usage and the application of the product, of the biochar, goes hand in hand a little bit with the zinc market in the same time. Because if, as example, Zurich or Microsoft buys zinc values as example together with Carbonfuture, then in the same time we have to look a little bit that the biochar can be used and applicated somewhere really positive. But I don't see this bubble risk, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. Okay, very interesting also. And so your opinion would be that if Zurich, for example, wants to compensate emissions, it would be nice to, if I understand it right, to use the char locally also. So they would buy actual biochar with the credits and use the char in urban applications or in construction, and use the credits or the value at least that they have certified to balance their emissions.
Maybe Berta or I can answer. Okay. Yeah, I think it can be locally. It must not be locally. I think a local application. I think we have the flexibility in here, and also on the market side, we have a little bit of flexibility. If maybe a company wants to pay more for really this sustainable C-Sync, then yeah, let's pay them, and let's see how the market will develop. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Marcel, before we go to the questions, because I haven't looked into the chat, maybe Christian, you can help us out later, and yeah.
May I add two things? I think that it's very important that we think that we produce biochar for certain applications by intention. So a biochar produced that could become everything is never ever the best for its certain application. So producing feature is making feature, because then you have all the GMP plus issues and so on, and you have the right understanding of this feature production. If you make a material that should end up in a construction material like concrete, you have totally different topics to fulfill. So this is something I would really ask, because it also interferes with the zinc issue afterwards, because the zinc players or the zinc consumers or the granted ones are different. Different industries, different applications, and biochar is versatile, but a good construction material might not be a good feature, and vice versa. So also the production has to grow mature by intention for a certain application, and then it should be really not overheated. So I'm also with Berta and Carbonfuture. This I don't like overregulated market as well, but selling a carbon credit CO2 for more than 500 euros per ton, for me that becomes ridiculous, even if it's a great bargain, no doubt, but that's getting insane. And that really would cause the effect of biochar carbon credits are not affordable on the long run. And that would be the biggest threat to the market. If biochar gets too expensive for being a carbon sink, too expensive for application, then it's done. Then we get a big decline in demand, and I think good prices are very reasonable, but I see a big threat in overheating.
I've heard that a couple of times already, that biochar, while the carbon markets are becoming more important, it's at least equally or more important to stress that biochar as a product has its value. And I think that's exactly that you have certain use cases, and of course you have different prices, and it can be the case, and it will be normally, and I think that's what we're seeing at the moment, that those carbon credits can help as a type of subsidy for biochar applications, but still the product has to be a valuable product and stay that, and it should not be produced for the credits and then we do whatever with it. So the main focus, it would be nice to have it on the product, but the solutions still have to be defined. I mean, yeah, please, Berta.
I mean, I was going to say, like, adding on to that, I think with the very high credit prices, it kind of sending a signal to the market, or even like to biochar producers, to think like, oh, I can get like 300, 400, 500 euros per ton, which is unrealistic in the long term. And then I think the risk there, because we also see a lot of biochar producers who base a lot of their business model on the carbon sink revenues, right? Which is, it's fine, but then if you need to base that on realistic prices in the long term, and I think these very high prices, they're a bit like what Ueli is saying, like, maybe they're like very high at the moment, but then it will regulate, and I think probably more to like the lower end. And so I think there's a risk of I think we need to focus on the value of the biochar itself, and then the credits are a plus, ideally.
Yes, thanks. Christian, do you want to ask a couple of questions from the audience, as we don't have so much time left?
So I had a quick question. So we are talking a lot about the private biochar market. If we look at the 2030 goals of whole countries, and also the inclusion of biochar and other net technologies, does anyone see any point in the public getting invested in this area? So what happens if a municipality just says, okay, we built a couple of plants? What happens with the market then, if they just build it and give it out for free, for example? Is that positive or negative?
It would be an interesting business case to give it out for free.
I mean, countries are now paying, Austria, for example, is paying billions for emission certificates. There is a certain price for CO2 already that is quite high, and we know this price. So where's the combination, the balance between this public and private price? I'm wondering.
Just if nobody's there, please raise your hand if you want to say something, so I don't interrupt you and don't take too much time. But at the moment, it's a discussion on an EU level, and we're of course involved because we're the industry representatives of the CRCM, the carbon removal crediting mechanism, and this is not only about, it is also about voluntary markets, but it's also about inclusion of negative emission technologies into a carbon trading system of the EU. So we don't know where it will end up, and actually it's for me it's not so important in which system it will enter. There are different things that are important, like the strict separation of emission reduction and the creation of carbon sinks. But we are positioning biochar as a technical carbon removal. And there are different options, like it can go into the effort sharing mechanism or in the ETS, emissions trading system. So just given a few basic principles, I'm, neutral in which area should fit, but I think there will be claims of the public of getting those credits, not necessarily like it's done with the forest at the moment, but certainly this issue is an important one. So maybe somebody would like to answer actually Christian's question, as I haven't done that. Paul is raising his hand, and Ueli wants to say something.
No, I just wanted to continue the question on my perspective is we are looking at biochar in the market in Belgium, which there's not a lot of biochar markets. So for us as starters, it's interesting for the price to, of course, be high. We, of course, know the price should decrease over time. But I wonder what that will have as an effect on the profitability of private installations. Because if the prices of biochar decrease and the prices of carbon credits maybe decrease or stabilize, it will have an effect on profitability of such installations, and maybe they become less attractive for people developing such installations.
If you allow, maybe first a comment on the question of Christian. We are in contact with different governmental institutions in Europe, also with municipalities or cities, and all of them, it's only an information in general, all of them, they start with business plans. I have no I have no information that one of these governmental institutions are planning an installation for producing biochar and giving them the biochar for free. It's more a general comment. All of them, they calculate a little bit, and yeah, let's see where it will go. But it's not my expectation that we will have biochar for free in the next years on the market.
Yeah, I would also see that as it's a product that is very interesting on the market. So the demand is just too high still. And as we've seen, as Marcel showed us, it is not so easy to scale up that rapidly. So this might stay the case. Marcel, do you want to comment?
Yeah, I just want to flank what Ueli said. I think even in our case where energy is covering most of the expenses and the stress is low on the biochar, you won't get any biochar for free from the plant in Frauenfeld already from the startup. And I think that also answers some part of the question. I think I've heard from Paul that the key is that this is also an energy system. Nevertheless, when you do a pyrolysis or a system like ours, if you don't utilize the excess heat or energy, I think you are outbalanced. And if you build it on a waste reduction unit, it's a different application that if you do biochar production and heat utilization by intention. So it's how you set up your business case. And if we won't end up like a lot of biogas plants in Germany that you do not use the heat and only run by incentives, it's not going to be sustainable. So you have to use in some cool way, like for example, Gerald is doing with his new setup. You have to utilize the heat in a good way. And then you have less stress on your biochar and less stress on your carbon credits, but it still makes fun. And this is the key. So don't only emphasize on the credit. You have the product, you have the energy, and you have the credit, and then it's a round system.
It's true.
Paul, do you have a follow-up comment on that?
No, it's
still raised.
So then we have a question from the audience from Matthew Myers about the off-takers of biochar so far. So can you tell us who is actually buying biochar right now? So who are the typical customers, especially in the agricultural sector?
Who wants to go?
Maybe Bert.
I think maybe you know most.
I could answer it. No,
I think it's good. Yeah.
The most important customers for us are farmers who use feed char because this is the most economical way to create healthy animals. And the second biggest amount goes into the city for the new tree planting systems, the Stockholm system. These are the big markets at the moment, and these two markets are the reason why we are sold out in Europe. The home gardener area is a very small business. You can package it in small bags, like 20 liters, and sell it bag per bag, but it's a very hard business. So big amounts go into the cities to planting trees.
What I heard also is special cultures like wine, for example, a couple of fruits, which are rather interesting for some large vendors. The trees, interestingly, Gerald, if it's for you, we are just still hoping. It depends who you ask. Some are already selling to this model, but some are still waiting for the market to develop. So this is one of our focus areas now to make this Stockholm model and everything associated with it a lot bigger, because it's just the results we've seen, they're just genius. It's just great.
In Austria, it's really the most popular way to plant trees in the cities. Nearly every town tried at the moment, and
wow.
every case is very successful.
Very nice.
Maybe a follow-up question on the cement topic, so biochar in concrete or cement. So do you think this will be solved on or sold on a market base, or is it a direct producer-customer relationship? So will that come on the market, or is it just we build a plant and we use the biochar?
That's the thing. I think I would say, and I think Marcel is even more involved in that, but the integration of production units in an existing company or industry, that's a very important, very interesting way of looking at it, like really closing cycles. If you have residues that you can use, you need heat that you have to produce for the production of cement, for example, and you can install a production unit on site, maybe using wastewood or so from a neighbor, and use the energy that's produced and the char. I think this is the way to go, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Integration is a cool thing, and as all the biochar is almost sold out, you have to get your own source. Yeah? Even if you, especially if you need big amounts. So if you talk about the cement or the concrete industry, you have to talk about multiple thousand tons a year at a single site. Otherwise, it's just too small. And maybe I add there a very important thing, and all for those who think to get rid of waste char in the concrete. It's not getting rid of something, because even if it's the biggest market, it demands a totally homogeneous, expectable, defined product that for sure has reach in Europe. So don't think about putting anything into concrete without a reach certificate. That's a mission impossible, especially in the legal way. But do not underestimate the demand for a climate additive in concrete. And what I really want to emphasize as well is that it has to bring a value, an added value. So it's not about putting biochar into a concrete to make it more green. Because it's not affordable. It's far too expensive. Concrete is a mass product, very cheap per ton. So if you add certain amounts, it rises your price to unlimited or impossible dimensions. So it really depends. You have to bring an added value to the concrete, and that's I don't think that actually is here, but in our efforts we replaced cement up to 15% and get a better pressure values on the concrete. So we do not have to take it too easy and say we can make a green concrete by putting in some biochar. You have to amend the biochar. You have to treat it to make a very homogeneous additive that is on industrial scale applied to this big industry. Otherwise, they would just throw us out. And there are not so much first steps possible. So if there are 2 or 3 bad rumors, it will become even more problematic for the ones to follow. So this is not a dumb place for low quality biochar. This is very dangerous.
Yep, thanks. And I think this is something that we hear rather frequently. Christian, please correct me if I'm wrong, because you're at the source, that the use of biochar in products, whatever product it is, should be aiming at the improvement of qualities of those products. And I think generally it also is, also in high-tech materials and everything. It's not a dump site for carbon. And in this case, you could just leave it out of the concrete and dump it anywhere else, and just buy the credits, right? So what we have is we need to substitute fossil resources through biogenic carbon, and apparently people and companies are finding very interesting ways of doing that and improving the qualities of a product to have a superior product, which again you can sell maybe for a higher price with a better carbon footprint. You have more questions? Oh.
I mean, I have indefinite questions, but I'm not sure how long all the participants can stay. So I'm just saying that we are 5 minutes over time. So officially, I think it's already over. So I don't know, Harald, you can decide, or everyone for him or herself, if you want to continue.
For me, a couple of minutes is all right. Some of us are on vacation, I think. So it's rather on the others.
Yeah, I'm happy to stay another couple of minutes as well.
Yeah, for me, it's fine too.
Because I had one more question regarding the bubble and the risks that this big growth and these high prices bring with it. So as Marcel just said, if you have 1 or 2, maybe 3 possibilities to come into an industry before they will shut you out for the next 10 years, do you see this problem also with other markets other than cement with biochar at the moment? Because we will have hundreds of producers now. We know from pyrolysis units, especially from East Asia, that are far off any emission regulation, and also biochar and carbon materials coming in. Do you see these risks, and how can the industry actually try to avoid getting swamped by these producers?
Yeah,
maybe Harald, if you allow, I think it's really our job now to work a little bit and as good as possible all over the world in the different countries, and that's what we want to do and what we are doing at the moment. Also, as Carbon Standards International, we speak with many different and new producers, and we try to explain them as important it is to produce a proper biochar, to have a good ceasing potential calculated behind at the end. And we have to integrate many new things, and we really have to do a big job in the next years that, at the end we have a good product in the market, and biochar still has a good image. And it's a little bit one of my worries that I have at the moment. This is more and more people start to speak about biochar more and more. Also, farmers think to use biochar on their farms, and we will need the quantities. We will need to scale up, and to do that in a proper way and in a good quality, it's a hard job to do, but we have to do it.
So certification, let's say, is key to securing the whole biochar industry. This is what I would say. I don't think anyone opposes. And because there are, and we know that there are production facilities that produce either just biochar, but not a high grade, or energy actually, and a residue is something black, and this something black can be highly contaminated. But it is there, and if it's on the farm already, it's likely to be used on the farm, because then you don't have to get rid of it. And if you hear that biochar is good, so this communication still has to be pushed further, and I think it's on us to communicate what biochar is. That if we're talking about it, it is something like EBC grade. I don't want to stress that EBC is the only, but it has to adhere to a certain standard. And this is, if it doesn't, we don't talk about biochar, and it's just a totally different product. It might look alike, but it's not the same. I think this is very important to stress on, because if not, we can really risk. We had a couple of issues in Germany and in other European countries where something that was not biochar per our definition was used in agriculture. And it didn't really get to a very big scandal, but as biochar is getting bigger now, those things can really risk to damage the industry drastically.
Does anyone have thoughts? I mean, farmers typically, conventional farmers, they value things on NPK. So in terms of biochar and how it's modeled by a conventional farmer and the economic value in say year 1, year 2, year 3? Is there a model that sort of speaks farmer language for that?
Well, in biochar itself, you don't really find so much NPK, depending on the input materials you're using. If you want to address this, you would look at the use of NPK fertilizers compared to sole use of NPK fertilizers, and the use of fertilizers blended or into biochar. Mm-hmm. Or incorporated into biochar, and then you can drastically reduce the use of NPK fertilization. And drastically, I mean, really, like you can feel it. The thing is that it depends on the fertilizer prices. As I see it now, fertilizer prices are rising, and biochar prices tend to drop.
What I mean is whether it's a software or an Excel sheet. If a farmer could predict that they're going to use less NPK over time from biochar or compost, then it's easier for them to model it. Otherwise, it is good in a scientific paper, but it's not something they're going to use in practice.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I can give an answer. We work together with around 400 farmers, but nearly nobody of these farmers is willing to use biochar at the moment because it's too expensive to spray it directly on the field together or without different nutrients. So at the moment, the farmers can only use it or put it into the slurry to reduce the smell of it, but not for hold back nitrogen. Mm-hmm. It's too expensive at the moment. And this, for me, this is the most important point. Biochar is too expensive to bring it to the farmers. And this is the reason why we need these CO2 certificates to make it cheaper.
Yeah, and Matt, I don't know any Excel sheet including such a calculation. We are working really close with farmers, and it's not existent.
Yeah.
Yep, that might be coming up as soon as we have fertilizer producers getting more into the topic and selling products based on biochar and certain type of fertilizers. I guess then they will elaborate that also.
Yeah, hi. I'm Christian. I hope you can understand me. I'm outside. My question would be, I'm consultant and I have a customer who is planning a pea shell facility, and they want to shell 15,000 tons a year. This would be amount where I was questioning if the biochar industry or the pyrolysis producers are able to bring facilities to the market that are able to pyrolyze 15,000 tons. Thank you.
Who wants to go? I think 15,000 tons is already feasible.
It's not so much. It's possible with our facility.
Okay. And which producer would you prefer, or which one is able to do so? Because I've seen quite a list at the beginning of the talk. Is everybody able, or would you say, okay, Purec, we know is a high standard. What is about other producers?
Well, Gerhard would certainly have a recommendation.
That's a hard job now, but what I really want to stress is whether you have such a big plant already done and operated for several years, or if you plan to do, or you have in mind to do, because I would say these amounts are not that easy to handle. Yeah,
that's my opinion as well.
In real world, so this is
we will do it.
It is a planned. It is not a plant that is already in existence. It is a planned facility. So they are just thinking about to do this. So would be interesting to go into more networking activities to get a bit support for this type of project, because it is a little bit maybe important to choose the right partner?
So I would recommend you just write me an email. It's my first and last name at biochar-industry.com, and I can put you in contact with several manufacturers, and then you can, give you an overview. This is what I can do, and then you can talk to several of them and make up your own opinion.
Okay.
Which one would be suitable?
Yeah, thank you.
I think at this point we will come to an end now. So just the last question to the participants, if you want to answer, obviously. What is the one thing you want to see in 5 years from now that is on the market regarding biochar?
Interesting. Well, should I start or what?
Yeah.
Okay. So 5 years. Well, what I would love to see is a circular economy based on biochar-based materials, so that we create what we are now creating from plastics, and with biochar-based composites, recycle them through pyrolysis, add some new binders to them, and get back into another product. So we would have a constantly increasing carbon pool just by the stuff we consume. Like, I have so much around me which is really doing harm to the environment. If that could be biochar based with natural binders, our consumption could be something good instead of something less bad. That would be my hope. I don't know if it's realizable in the next 5 years, maybe 10.
Thanks, Berta.
Yeah, I think for me as well, seeing biochar, I think in the next 5 years, it would be great if everyone I tell that I work with biochar knows what it is. I think that would be a great achievement. And just seeing biochar being used more widely in all its different types of applications, and all organic matter that is now being burnt, at least being transformed into biochar and used.
You, Marcel,
Ueli?
Really?
Yeah, then I would like to add that I hope that in 5 years people and the second thing is let's work on it, that this product will be also on the price level, on the right price level that the product should have, and that at the end new users are able to install facilities, machines, and to be profitable with. That's what I hope.
Thank you. It interrupted for me. I hope I'm the only one. Seems to be.
Marcel, your take on that?
A lot of different versatile mature systems available that join forces in this incredible big task of stabilizing climate with biochar. So honestly, I see there's no competition in technology, just in the whole thing to be done together. That's the only thing that matters, and not overheating on the way towards it. That's my only hope.
Cooperation, great. I think those are some nice final words, isn't it, Christian?
Yes, thank you for that. So thanks all the presenters now. Thanks for staying so late today, and thanks for your insights from an industry perspective.